Going into my 16th season coaching, I knew that this would be it for me and I wanted to end on a Super Bowl win. 39-year-old T-Law was coming off of an MVP year, and I made a ton of moves as I brought in running back Greg Ridgway, who I coached at UCLA, and cornerback Dustin Noel, who also played for me in college. This led to the offense being stacked and the defense being even better, so I was a little surprised we were in such a close game with the Seahawks, especially because they kept toasting my defense no matter what formation or play I called. Even with his old legs, Trevor Lawrence could still take off though, so that made him hard to stop as he kept my team in it with 2 minutes remaining. He was having an incredible game as this throw would send it to overtime, but after losing the coin toss, I had to trust my defense, and thankfully they pulled off a big stop, so from there my offense would slowly maneuver their way down the field, which would set up the game-winning field goal in the season opener. Clearly, winning a Super Bowl with this team was going to be harder than I anticipated, especially because against the Washington Commanders, we started off down by 21. I mean, it took us an entire half to get 3 points, but I must have given an incredible halftime speech because things were much different throughout the second. My team fought all the way back just to make it a one-possession game, and it would all come down to if we could hold the Commanders short. Here on 3rd and Inches, I was hoping we could, but we didn't, so we picked up our first loss, and I immediately made a trade to improve the defense even more. If I couldn't get this roster to the Super Bowl, I just have to accept that I'm not a good coach. Well, at least at the NFL level, because we all know what I've achieved coaching in college. Luckily, the Packers own the Bears like usual, and I was hoping we were about to get into a rhythm, but the Cardinals were making that difficult. With about 2 minutes left, we were trailing by 3, and Greg Ridgway's awareness was clearly through the roof as he made that catch and tied it up for us, sending the game into overtime. In this one, we won the toss, and since I obviously told my team to elect to receive, all it should have taken was one drive to win it, but after a few terrible drops, kicker Sidney Manning had to go out and put us up by 3, which was great and all, but it also gave Arizona a chance they shouldn't have had, and obviously they tied it. It was blocked. I couldn't believe it, but my special teams unit made the play of the season, and that kept us on top of the NFC North. Once again, we had to play the Bears, and it was a cakewalk. The score makes it look a lot closer than it was, but this play sums up the game pretty well, and we swept Chicago. At this point in the year, tight end Sherrod Thompson had been T-Law's favorite target, and it's understandable why, because he comes down with everything. It made scoring easy, and Kansas City tried their best to keep up with my offense, but today, Trevor Lawrence was just making Chiefs fans miss Patrick Mahomes, and the craziest part was he was gunning for his records. This was our first blowout win of the year, and I was hoping it was the first of many this season because they made my job so much easier. With this throw, Trevor Lawrence was now just 4 touchdowns shy of being the all-time NFL leader in career touchdown passes, and he was tearing apart the Vikings defense as he gunned for the record. It wasn't going to happen today, but he was going to get close to it, and obviously, with him playing this well, it was an easy win. T-Law was now tied with Mahomes at 686, and ticket prices were through the roof. Everybody wanted to be in attendance for Trevor Lawrence's career day, and the best way to get tickets for the big game was SeatGeek, the sponsor of today's video. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app, and there are more than 70,000 events every single day on SeatGeek, including sports, concerts, festivals, and more. For example, I'm looking for tickets to watch March Madness in Orlando, and SeatGeek always wants to make sure you're getting a good deal, so when you're on the app, make sure to look for the green dots. Anyways, you all know that I'm always going to come through for you all, so if you use my code Bordeaux, you'll get $20 off tickets at SeatGeek when you download the app using the first link in my description. Now, it's time to watch Trevor Lawrence make history, and the all-time record-setting throw would come on a pass to wide receiver Jawan Weber. However, there was nothing mentioned by EA about this, so I'm hoping the game will honor Trevor in some way afterwards, because even in NCAA Football 14, it shows whenever you break any type of record. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence wasn't losing on his big day, and my team was now 7-1. The only thing I could find about the record was a singular tweet, and I thought breaking the career all-time passing touchdowns record was a big deal, but I guess Madden didn't. Anyways, after a slow start, Trevor Lawrence finally got in a rhythm against the 49ers with this massive throw, and my team went from being down 13 to going up 17. 17. I was loving how well we were playing, and as of now, we were the best team in the NFL. I thought a fake field goal was a great way to start our game against the Lions, but they responded back from it really fast, so we just had to do the same with this touchdown. You wouldn't expect T-Law to be such a runner at 39 years old, but he could pull it off still, and at this point, I felt like the playoffs were going to be a lock for us. The Lions couldn't defend their home field, and Greg Ridgway got a breakout challenge, so he needed to have a huge game against Minnesota, which wasn't looking likely nearing the half. He only had a singular touchdown run, but he needed to keep scoring, and with a couple of minutes left, it was clear that wasn't going to happen. On the bright side though, we were going to win another divisional matchup in the NFC North, and Greg Ridgway even got a late touchdown to rub the salt in the wound. Sooner than later, we could lock up the 1 seed, but we would have to beat the Rams, the reigning Super Bowl champions, and this certainly wasn't Trevor Lawrence's best game as he had some questionable turnovers. However, we still had a 7-point lead approaching halftime, and then he pulled off a remarkable 50-yard throw to Zaire White, which unfortunately didn't result in points due to this sack, and it seemed like everything that could possibly go wrong for us did as the Rams forced a fumble to start the third quarter, but I continued to keep us ahead with aggressive play calls like this, and at the end of the day, you couldn't even tell we ever struggled. With 5 games remaining, we clinched a playoff spot, so I'm going to quickly cover how the rest of the regular season went for us. With 2 minutes left, we were losing to Detroit in the snow at Lambeau, but we got a much needed 4th down stop, so Trevor Lawrence had an opportunity to put on a show in front of our home crowd in the final seconds, and he did enough to send it to overtime, but we never saw the ball as the Lions would ruin our 9-game winning streak. I started to get worried my team was falling off right before the postseason, and with 39 seconds left, once again, my team was trailing by 3 to the Chargers. I should have just sent out the special teams unit, but I didn't, and Trevor Lawrence took a game-losing sack, so when we traveled to Las Vegas next week, we had to bounce back, and I could tell that nobody wanted to win more than T-Law today by the way he was playing against the Raiders. For the 3rd week in a row though, we were trailing by 3 and he was gonna have to put together a comeback drive, and fortunately this time I called the right plays and that put us in an amazing position to get the win, but we scored too fast and the Raiders came very close to taking advantage of that. Luckily, my defense forced back-to-back sacks that would seal the winning result for us, and as long as we could hold on to our lead against the Saints, we were about to clinch the 1 seed. Greg Ridgway did more than enough as not only did he get the first down here, but he also got us down to the 1-yard line, and from there, it was over. The top seed in the NFC was ours, so I played a lot of the backups in our Week 18 loss to the Ravens, and I was just ready to jump into the 2039 NFL playoffs where I guaranteed the fans a win. It seemed like T-Law took a step back this season, but Greg Ridgway made up for that, and so did this receiving core that was stacked as there was normally always someone wide open for T-Law to throw it to. The Rams quarterback seemed a little scared as he slid instead of taking an easy first down here, and I made sure my guys didn't come into the game playing with that mentality. Greg Ridgway was fighting for every last yard he could, and in all honesty, he was the only consistent part of my offense so far. Luckily, on the other side of the ball, we forced a huge fumble here that we recovered at midfield, but Trevor Lawrence didn't waste any time giving it right back to the Rams. That moment sure didn't live in his head for long though, as he stunned everybody, including me, when he dropped a 70-yard bomb to end the first half. And we could have increased our lead by even more, but Greg Ridgway couldn't make this catch, so we just went up by 10 instead and continued to do what we needed to do. Even T-Law was hyping up the crowd, and he was certainly not going to be put out in the first round this year. Once again, he made another incredible deep throw, yet the Rams were still in it with 2 minutes remaining, and I'm not gonna lie, everyone was getting a bit nervous until Greg Ridgway somehow popped out of this with nobody near him. He would take it all the way to the house untouched to put us back up by 10, and I won my first NFL playoff game because of that. The NFC Championship was against the Bucks, and Greg Ridgway got us onto the board first. For a split second, I thought I was playing against 61-year-old Tom Brady, but it turns out that it was actually someone else at quarterback. We took a 3-point lead to end the first half, and I thought things were looking good until T-Law threw an interception on this drive. Not only would we lose possession of the ball, but I'd call a costly blitz that didn't get in, and the Buccaneers would use that to their advantage as they went up by 4. Fortunately though, my offense was even more explosive than that. Trevor Lawrence would hit Zaire White in stride, and he outran everybody on the field as well, going for a 78-yard touchdown, and that would completely change the game for us. Even though Tom Brady Jr. would try to keep it close, it wouldn't matter because the Bucs defense would have to stop running back Greg Ridgway, and just like last week, he wasn't going down without a fight. This first down catch by him would end up sending my team to the Super Bowl, and I was ready to coach in my last game ever. T-Law didn't win MVP this year, but he was playing in the Super Bowl, so I don't think he really cared. Greg Ridgway won me a championship in college, and he was looking to get me a Lombardi as well with runs like this, and the Raiders were a 7 seed that made an upset run to get here, so I was hoping we could pull away early, but that just wasn't the case. I'm just glad that so far my offense hadn't been stopped yet, and Trevor Lawrence along with the rest of the guys continued to prove that they were going to be hard to defend. So to start the fourth quarter, we were up by 11, and defensively I had been aggressive all day, but it was certainly paying off until it didn't. I don't know what happened here, but on fourth down, somehow the Raiders receiver got wide open, and this was game changing. All of a sudden, we were starting to blow it, and on 3rd and 37, yes, 3rd and 37, after forcing multiple stacks and getting a lucky holding call, they got out of it with this wild catch. So I got upset, told my guys to send the house, and it actually paid off as we forced a huge turnover. However, while running out the clock, Greg Ridgway would lose the ball and the Raiders recovered it, so thank goodness the refs watched the replay, saw his knee was down, and made the correct call. It was a game of inches, but we got what we needed, and I finished my 16-year coaching career by winning a Super Bowl with the Green Bay Packers. I brought numerous college trophies to Louisville and UCLA, but this one just felt even better than the rest.